You've learned about the steps for teaching handwriting in the language area, but I want to take a minute just to remind you that we will also be teaching to write the numerals as well as writing letters and encouraging children to practice that. And this can also be a way for some children who are ready and have the hand control to reinforce their recognition of the symbol, what that symbol is. And so if you recall, we might use a sand tray, and I'm not going to show that step, you've seen it in the language area, but where you would trace the numeral and write the numeral on a sand tray. But you would also want to practice writing numerals on a chalkboard. I like to begin with a big blank chalkboard, either a standing chalkboard at an easel or on the wall, or a flat chalkboard that's blank and fairly large, so the child can practice, doesn't have to work in too small of a space to write the numeral. So they would trace the numeral. This comes after many lessons with the sandpaper numerals for recognition with the 3-period lesson. This is 4, Vizzy. 4, you remember how to trace that? Trace the 4. And Vizzy would trace the 4. 4. Now we're going to write a 4 on the chalkboard. I'm going to trace it one more time. Make it nice and big. Now it's your turn. Trace the 4 and write the 4. The next step would be to move to a chalkboard with the squares. The children in my class did a lot of these chalkboards with both letters and writing numerals. And so when she can successfully write the numeral on the larger chalkboard, and it might even be the same day if this is a child who's done a lot of practical life and sensorial and has been doing a lot of metal insets and cutting and other work that prepares the hand, she might be ready from the very first day that I show her how to write a numeral to take it to the smaller chalkboard. And so now once again, we'll trace the numeral. 4, I will write 1, 4, and then I invite her to write 1 in the small square, and I invite her to fill up every square with a 4. And perhaps at this point I will have introduced several numerals on the large chalkboard, and so we'll make 2 rows of 4, and maybe we'll have 2s out. I'll set them up so the sandpaper numerals are out and ready to go, and maybe we'd be working with the 1s. So 2 rows of 4, 2 rows of 2, and 2 rows of 1, and she will fill up the chalkboard. When we're really getting good with our writing on the chalkboard, then we're ready to move to paper, and I would have paper she could practice writing her numerals in squared paper with a square grid. And so we're encouraging that writing and encouraging that practice of the numerals. Now let's suppose this was a child who's having difficulty remembering and she gets confused about her numerals. Then every time you write the 4, trace the 4, say 4, write the 4, say 4. Trace the 4, 4. Write the 4, 4. And so we're helping to get that memory by the repetition of tracing, saying, writing. Tracing, saying, writing, so that it helps the child to integrate that and remember it. So the writing practice, one, helps them to be able to control their pencil and gain that control, learn to write these symbols, because they'll want to be able to write down when they get to some of their bigger problems later in their writing, working with big numbers, they'll want to be able to write them down. And so they want to gain that control of hand and the ability to write those numerals. So it helps with developing those skills and also helps to reinforce learning these numerals and remembering these numerals. So it's good practice for the children. And if they're in the sensitive period for writing, they're going to love this. They're going to want to fill up lots and lots of chalkboards. So I always had about 6 of these in my classroom, and on most days that all get filled, and I'd set them in the windowsills so everyone could admire them. Sometimes a child would bring their mother in when they came to pick them up from school to see their chalkboard. Sometimes all the chalkboards would get done, and someone would have to ask someone, is it okay if I erase your chalkboard because I want to do one? So have plenty of these and really encourage it. When they're in that sensitive period for writing, they're going to want to do it, and it reinforces their learning of numerals while gaining the hand control and the skills for writing.